Welcome back to Next Gen Investing. It's now time for FOMO, and we are discussing Nvidia with fresh all-time highs in the session. And it did not start the session this way, as we've seen strength really pick up, tied to, of course, its $100 billion investment in OpenAI. Joining us now is Marley Kayden, host for the Schwab Network. So, Marley, I think this is a huge reason we've seen the market turn around to this extent, because with Nvidia up now 3%, earlier today, Tesla was our pretty much only green name across our major tech discussion. Now, Nvidia with a 3% move, I mean, this is leading to huge optimism right now that we're seeing really driven by the NASDAQ.
Yeah, and Nvidia was, pretty much unchanged on the day earlier. Now, as you said, they hit a new all-time high. Shares up more than 3%. They were up as much as 4%, lifted their market cap to about $4.5 trillion on the news of this story. Like you said, investing $100 billion in its partnership with OpenAI as OpenAI plans to build out these hundreds of billions of dollars in data centers. So this partnership is allowing OpenAI to build and deploy at least 10 gigawatts of AI data centers with Nvidia systems. That's representing about 4 to 5 million GPUs for OpenAI's next generation AI infrastructure. And for some perspective, Jenny, that is twice as many GPUs as the company shipped last year. So this is it's massive in size. To try to offer some perspective, Nvidia says that it's going to invest that money progressively as each gigawatt is deployed. So it's not just an initial drop investment. It will be over time. And the first gigawatt of Nvidia systems should be deployed in the second half of 2026 on the Nvidia Vera Rubin platform. Now, the stock was up. Jensen Huang describes this as quote unquote monumental in size. He's highlighting the intimate link, what he calls an intimate link between OpenAI and Nvidia. And they are, of course, two of the biggest drivers of this AI boom that we continue talking about. Nvidia's GPU demand really started picking up when OpenAI first released ChatGPT in 2022. That was one of their primary growth drivers. And OpenAI still relies heavily on these GPUs to develop its software and then deploy it to its, I think now 700 million users. And Sam Altman also commented here, the CEO of OpenAI, saying, quote, "You should expect a lot from us in the coming months. There are 3 things OpenAI has to do well. We have to do great AI research. We have to make these products people want to use. And we have to figure out how to do this unprecedented infrastructure challenge." So that's that big component here, Jenny. That's that Nvidia piece, this infrastructure challenge that we continue talking about. How do you do it? How do you build it out faster? Obviously, $100 billion is a big help there.
It definitely is. I mean, and I think it goes to show that the CapEx Nvidia has set aside, massive amounts, is going towards something. I know this is more of a long-term story. I guess the one skepticism I read is right now we need the reliability of the economy, but also the demand for AI to maintain, if not continue to rise at a faster or maintaining this pace for a lot of these capacities to be fulfilled. Or else I feel like we could be, again, everyone says, in the bubble situation. And not to say I'm not a believer and a subscriber to AI, because I definitely am, but you need demand to continue at this pace, which is maybe my one degree of caution.
Yeah, and it's a timeline story as well, too. I mean, yes, we can invest all this money in data centers, and we've seen it in many, many companies at this point. The CapEx spend story is huge, particularly this quarter, but this year. How quickly can we actually build those out? And like you're mentioning, if we are in fact in a bubble, does the build-out survive the bubble, if it is a bubble, and if the bubble were to pop? So I think this is a multi-year story at a minimum for this to be built out. But, certainly a testament to Nvidia's strategy of this wide, broad CapEx investment to keep themselves diversified, to keep themselves in the headlines, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing, especially with all of the China headlines that they've had of late. So, good timing for them as a pivot point away from some of those headlines we've seen. But, Nvidia's performance speaks for itself. They have to find different avenues of growth, and this investment and this partnership, if OpenAI in fact later then wants to go public or something to that effect, it puts them into a strategic relationship.
It does. And I also think it continues to really harness what the Trump administration is after right now. And that's that the domestic companies that were focused more on these partnerships amongst the U.S.-based entities, like we've seen with Microsoft, Alphabet, Oracle. I mean, and then, of course, we saw Nvidia last week with a $5 million investment into Intel. Intel has also seen a huge amount of cash flowing its way as of late. So I know that the structure of OpenAI as an entity and a for-profit, non-for-profit company has remained a bit of a question mark, and it's so odd to me in which the way it basically it works its accounting right now. But it definitely continues to show that companies are making an effort to keep it in the country.
Yeah, and you've mentioned too, Nvidia taking lots of stakes in many companies. I mean, their spend, they're really divvying it out. They have their Intel deal, which we've been talking about. They also invested close to $700 million in the UK in Nscale. That was just, I think, 2 weeks ago. They spent $900 million to hire a new CEO and a few other employees for part of their AI component of their AI startup. Lots of money being spent here to try to keep them in the forefront. And we had an interesting conversation on Trading 360 earlier about Nvidia. And one of the things that kept coming up is if they actually lost access to the China market, what does that mean for Nvidia? But like you said, if they continue doing these investments elsewhere and diversifying across multiple platforms, that could make a difference here.
That could definitely make a difference here. And I definitely know the appetite for spend is not weighing anytime. We talked about it last week. It's the same story for this week, where you're just seeing more and more of these developments. And I also kind of like that companies are joining forces as opposed to working in like silos. So I think this is interesting. And hey, even more interesting is a nice pop dip, 3.4% new all-time highs in Nvidia. The most valuable company just got a little bit more valuable. But appreciate it to Marley Kayden, host here for the Schwab Network, for that breakdown.